Yeah, I think it's like the perfect situation for both parties. Like you had talked about earlier, they're not in a situation where they have to rebuild. I mean, the NFL isn't like the NBA or even baseball, where you don't have to stink for a decade before you can get good again. They have maybe a couple holes to fill, but the way the NFC East is right now, you can make like one or two moves and be right back in the thick of it. And I think Sam Bradford I think that's a strong move in the right direction for them.
Yeah, I mean, and really, I think a lot of this, Dave, comes down to the hiring of Peterson, too. How much do you think Peterson's hire, that they don't want him, they want to give him stability right from the get-go, because they don't want him to fail. They don't want the fans to think that they made a mistake by hiring a relatively unknown guy, and they believe that Bradford gives them the best chance at success.
Yeah, I think that's right. And the fact that Peterson was a quarterback before here, he was a quarterback coach here before, I think him and Bradford has never played for him, but Pat Shurmur and Peterson are both from that Andy Reid coaching tree as far as the offense goes. So it's not like he has to learn a completely new system again. And because he had played with Shurmur in St. Louis his rookie year. So I think that I think it's like a pretty smooth transition, both for the coach and the quarterback.
Yeah, and the money, $18 million per year. I guess that's the going rate in this league. Whether you like it or not, Dave, that's the going rate. If you want to say, well, Bradford doesn't deserve $18 million a year, that's what a quarterback of just a good caliber quarterback's getting. The great ones are up in the lower 20s. The good ones are around 18. Bradford's good. He's not great.
Right. I mean, he was supposedly asking for $25 million a couple months ago. That's just outrageous. But what he signed for, $18 million, that's not out of the realm of reality. I mean, like you said, that's like that's the market rate for a quarterback that's halfway decent. I think he's proven to be a little bit better than that. So I don't think it's like an outrageous salary by any means.
Do you like this deal better than the franchise deal then?
Yeah, I do. So I think that Bradford needs a couple years. They need to find a couple years before they can determine whether he's the future or not. And I think he played pretty well during the second half of this season. Enough to convince them to maybe take a little bit of a longer look. I never do I don't like the franchise tag anyway. Just because the players never seem to like it, and there always seems to be some bad will between the team and the player when that happens. And I think they were trying to work on a deal anyway, which was proven to be the case yesterday. So. I like it better than the franchise tag. I do.
Dave, do you think this deal was then based on his final 7 games? Did they make the decision that those 7 games that they wanted to see more?
Yeah, I think so. He struggled. I mean, everybody can admit that he struggled in the first half of the year, only because he hadn't played for pretty much 2 years and had needed time to work the rust off. I mean, I even wrote back then that he should be benched for a couple games for Mark Sanchez. I didn't think he should be benched for the entire year, like people are trying to tell me that I said that I didn't. But anyway, when he came back from that injury and over the last 7 games, I thought he played very well, to be honest with you. And I think that's what motivated the Eagles to make this move.
Does this move to you then, Dave, indicate that Bradford wanted to come back to Philly? Were you surprised that he and his agent didn't wait to hit the market, or was that a clear indication that the market wasn't there for him?
Probably a little bit of both. He didn't give like that impression like a couple months ago when they asked if he wanted to come back. He was kind of like a lukewarm response, but he changed his tune, I think, and I think he was just tired of moving around. I mean, Brad, he's only been with 2 teams, but he's been with a lot of different offensive coordinators and a couple head coaches. And I think he wanted to find a place where he could settle down, at least for a couple of years, and he'd set his feet. And I think he developed a pretty strong rapport with his teammates towards the end of the year, and that really helped. I think that might have been a factor in him coming back too.
You wonder if Chip Kelly's the coach here. Does Sam Bradford want to come back and play for Chip Kelly, or is it because Doug Peterson is here, John DeFilippo and Frank Reich are here? Is this new regime the reason why this deal gets done? And some people might not be happy with that, but that could be the reality.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, he probably owes Chip a little bit because Chip was the one who brought him here, but Chip also didn't give him a whole lot of security. So I would think that because of Peterson's offensive system, like you said, and the guys he brought in, Frank Reich and DiFilippo as the quarterback's coach. I think it's a pretty stable system, and I think that had a factor in coming back too. You're right.
Dave Weinberg from the Press of Atlantic City covers the Philadelphia Eagles. So Bradford's back, 2-year deal, but do you stop there?
No, you got to draft a quarterback too, like you said. I think you need somebody to groom. I mean, the guys that they had in Fad, whatever his name was, and a couple other guys. Once you got rid of Barkley, you really didn't have a guy for the future. So you did have to draft. I think you have to draft a young quarterback and let him learn the system. Let him, without the pressure of throwing him right in there like you had to do with McNabb when he was your rookie. So I think that not necessarily with the 13th pick, unless Lynch somehow falls to 13. But I would go for like an offensive lineman or maybe a defensive lineman at that pick, or move back and, like you said, draft a guy. Either maybe try and get the second-round pick back and draft a quarterback there, or use the third-round pick with one of those guys that's there, like Dak Prescott or Connor, one of those guys.
Yeah, it's interesting because the Eagles are at 13. You wonder if they were higher up in the draft, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if they make a different decision on Bradford and just say, you know what, we're already bad, we can get a quarterback. But because they were kind of in the middle of the pack, I feel like they're compelled just to remain relevant, and then let the quarterback grow while the team is in the middle somewhere. And then if they get past the middle because of Bradford, great. But if not, at least the new quarterback's not coming into a dire situation.
Right, and like you said, it doesn't take a whole lot to get back into contention here. I mean, they're already pretty much in the middle. They had a less than stellar year this season, but they're not that far removed from back-to-back 10-win seasons. And given the state of the NFC East, it's not going to take a whole lot of improvement to contend for that division title again. So there really was no reason for a rebuilding project at this point.
Dave Weinberg from the Press of Atlantic City. This draft, the quarterback class is not great, and I think that's another.
Right.
There's a lot of interesting guys, but there's just not there's not a Mariota, there's not a Winston, there's not a Luck. I think the Eagles also took that into consideration when they made this decision as well. They had to have.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there were some rumors out there that they were pretty enamored with Carson Wentz, but
aren't guaranteed to get him.
Right. And, they wanted to move back up into the top 5 like they wanted to do with Mariota last year or something. And I'm not sure that Wentz is worth that. Like you said, he's not Jameis Winston. He's not Marcus Mariota. He's not Cam Newton. He's not Andrew Luck. So I think I don't think there's a quarterback in this draft worth moving up to get.
Yeah, and, Bradford I don't know what to think of Bradford. What kind of feedback do you get on him? I mean, I put out a poll yesterday, 70+% were happy with the deal. I don't know what kind of feedback you get on him, but I feel like the Arizona game was the moment when I felt like, you know what, maybe people do like this guy. When Sanchez came in, he got booed. The next play, Bradford comes back, he gets cheered. He won the game in New England. I thought the fans kind of leaned more towards him. Maybe that's because the alternative was so bad at that time.
Yeah, I think he kind of grows on you. Like when he first came here, I didn't really you never would have known he was like the first overall pick in the draft, or that he was a Heisman Trophy winner, or had gotten this big contract. He just didn't strike me as having that leadership presence that you want in your franchise quarterback. But as the year went on, he seemed to grow comfortable in his own skin, if that makes sense, and seemed to develop, like I said, that rapport with the rest of the team. Everybody talks about that big meeting he had in the locker room before a couple games and how they kind of rallied around him. And I think as he got healthier and he got more confident in the system, he got more confident around his teammates. I think that's when you started to see that quarterback that everybody was raving about a couple of years ago before he started having these knee problems.
Yeah, and I feel like he's the ultimate enigma in this game. I mean, he gets excuses, but I think a lot of the excuses are valid. Sometimes it's like, all right, at what point do you just say enough's enough? I feel with him, and look, I'm not the biggest Bradford guy. I was disappointed in Bradford. I expected more from him. Even the second half, I thought he played good. I still wasn't like, wow, this guy's really showing me something. So I did leave disappointed. But I do feel that some of the excuses for him are just.
Yeah. I probably have a higher opinion of him than you do, but I thought he played really well. And it would have been even better if his receivers might have caught a pass or two once in a while.
Yeah.
Because he set the franchise record for completion percentage, and that's with all those drop passes. And there was this. I know it sounds kind of weird, but at the last game of the season, there was this throw that he made, I think, to Jordan Matthews down the sideline, and I haven't seen an Eagles quarterback make that throw in 10 years at least. It was just like it was like a deep sideline pass right on the money, straight as an arrow, right in the guy's hands. I know like McNabb never made that throw. Sanchez probably can, but he's just as up to throw it to the other team too. So I just that was the moment for me really. I said, wow, if this guy can stay healthy, and I know it's a big if, it always is with him, but I really think he can turn out to be something special.
Well, and you're there every single game. You get a chance to see him from a very good angle to be able to notice those type of things. So I think that's a great perspective to say he's making some throws that maybe they don't look as impressive from where you're watching them from, but to see him in person and to see him, from high above to say, look, there was this guy here, the safety was there, you might not have saw him there. So I think that adds something to the allure of Bradford, because a lot of people said, look, this guy did have the tools. So you saw the tools, the number one pick. You saw that.
I did, and it'll be interesting now that I'm probably be allowed to watch practice again. Maybe I'll get to see a little bit more of it.
Yeah, and I think so far they got a lot of stuff done here. Give me your assessment of Howie Roseman's offseason.
Pretty impressed, actually. I mean, he has that reputation for locking up young players, that he sees that have promising futures, before they can really, get bargaining power. And I thought he did that with Zach Ertz and Vinny Curry, well, to a lesser extent, but especially Lane Johnson and Zach Ertz, I guess. Mm-hmm. And I think this is another move in the right direction with him. And it's clear that he's back in charge again. And so far, I don't see any reason to complain about the job he's doing. But I guess the Fletcher Cox deal will probably be the most important thing on his plate next, though.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with Fletcher. I got to assume if you're Fletcher, though, you feel like, all right, we're taking another step in the – I've kind of explained it, Dave, as Roseman had to get the house back in order, and he's trying to make these guys feel back at home, like you were drafted here and we want you. Right.
And, I think he wanted to make his presence felt again. I mean, he really got knocked down a peg or two last year, and I think he learned from that. I think he's a little more humble because of that. But it's clear that he seems to have learned from his mistakes and seems to be willing to do whatever it takes to make the Eagles relevant again, like you said.
Yeah, all right. Dave Weinberg, check out his piece on Sam Bradford at pressofatlanticcity.com as the Eagles, of course, lock up Sam Bradford. Mixed reviews out there, but it sounds like people are warming up a little bit to it. I guess the money is what jumps off, $36 million. And that guaranteed money, that's a lot of guaranteed money, but it sounds like the 2 years is an agreeable thing for both sides.
Yeah, I think they got the quarterback of the near future, and they didn't have to break the bank to do it. So I thought both sides made out pretty good on it.
All right, and of course, when the draft comes around, we'll talk to Dave about that, who thinks the Eagles still need to draft a quarterback. They haven't got one that worked since Donovan.
That's true. Yeah, it's been a while.
It's not an exact science. All right, Dave, enjoyed it, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. See you later.